After the Wii U, some people thought Nintendo might be doomed. Turns out, Nintendo may have even thought that about themselves. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switchforce. I've got Jake and Gabe here, and this is a really interesting set of stories. Two pieces on how Nintendo and the Pokemon Company both didn't think the Switch was going to sell anywhere near as well as it has. The first comes from an unnamed source. This article is on Nintendo Today, and in a recent Japanese interview, Nintendo said, quote, "Nintendo has never expected the Nintendo Switch to sell this much." And they were talking about production and why things have been slow. And they said, quote, "It's easy to increase the production capacity of the factory. The finished product needs to be delivered from the harbor to the rest of the world, and rushing shipping is an extremely difficult thing to do." And that, quote, "In reality, there are 20 million people who actually want to buy one," in reference to the Switch and the fact that they plan to ship 10 million units. So they've already upped production significantly. They feel like it's even double where they're at, and they weren't even ready for this amount, which is so freaking strange. I am shocked, personally, that Nintendo didn't have ultimate faith in this brilliant idea.
Well, I think the reason why they didn't have ultimate faith, we'll touch on in a little bit here with the Pokemon CEO, but to me, the interesting thing about this Nintendo Today article is, like, the whole shipping thing. They're like, hey, we can make them. Like, making them isn't the problem. It's, like, expediting the shipping. That's the hard part. And, you know, there's all kinds of logistics that go into that, and it's just interesting to me that that's where the issue lies as far as not being able to get one in stores when you walk in.
Boats. Boats are very slow.
Yeah, we need to pull a Dunkirk and all go help get these Switches around the world. True. Let's take them to their respective respective
Forgive
owners.
me for my ignorance, but why can't they just fly these things out?
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. I'm sure there's just a lot of logistics in terms of getting them all over the world. I just think it's very interesting. I mean, and maybe it was a conservative estimate, given the fact that the Wii U did so poorly on a grand scale. Maybe they did want to sort of double down, conserve, and play it safe, especially since, the rumors and the ideas that it was more of a soft launch, that they wanted to get this thing out ahead of the holiday season and test the waters, see where it's at. I can see that they were worried, but I am a bit surprised to hear them admit it. And obviously this is an unnamed employee, but even just that knowledge is super. It's just such an interesting twist to this whole year of Nintendo. And then, like you mentioned, Gabe, Tsunekazu Ishihara, the Pokemon Company CEO, said, "I told Nintendo that Switch wouldn't be a success before it went on sale because I thought that in the age of the smartphone, no one would carry out a game console. It's obvious I was wrong. I came to realize the key to a successful game is quite simple. Software with absolute quality leads sales of hardware. Playing style can be flexible if the software is attractive enough. Currently, it's popular among the early adopters, but there needs to be one more step to attract a wider audience. I see more potential in Switch, but one shouldn't overestimate its potential." So he brings in the mobile phone issue, which is one that I think a lot of people have talked about in terms of portable gaming and tablet gaming and what the Switch will do. That's where, though, the hybrid nature is so important.
And that's the quote that I was talking about. Like, maybe to me, that's why Nintendo was a little more apprehensive in their, internal projections, because it's not easy to sell a $300 console to somebody that already plays games on their phone, constantly. And honestly, I don't know how many people do that. Like, I'm sure they do, but none of us play mobile phones a whole lot. And I understand that we're not the masses and we're just three people. But I'm
just surprised that he wasn't more certain of the Switch being successful based on its games, because you can't get anything close to Breath of the Wild on a smartphone. So I'm surprised. I understand that from a conceptual standpoint. Oh, it's a gaming system that you can take anywhere. While we have large smartphones now that you can play games on. But with a launch title like Breath of the Wild driving the Switch sales, you would think that these people would have a little bit more faith in it, that the game's pushing the system, and they knew that there was gonna be a Mario game coming and other things like that. So you'd think that they would be like, oh, it does seem like conceptually it seems like a similar idea, but these games are so unique to the system that those are going to be pushing the sales.
But Nintendo has always had unique games. Remember, Breath of the Wild was supposed to be on Wii U originally, and Mario games have been on every Nintendo console ever. So, and the Wii U failed. So
I think it's also just
enough to
Yeah.
Go ahead.
it's like a big overall gaming industry thing right now of like, oh, simpler games and more bite size versus, the big AAA experience. We've seen sort of the decline of the single player narrative based game and service based games rising, especially coming from Japan, where cell phones are king. I can easily see getting in a mind state where you're like, okay, yeah, these games are great. Yeah, they're of quality, but do people want them? And I think the Switch was probably confirmation of, okay, yes, people do want to take a system on the go and dive into something major. It's not just about match 3 and, tap, tap, tap. It can be a AAA console level experience on the go. And you also have to think, like, Ishihara was involved with Pokemon Go development. That is a very simplistic take on Pokemon. That is very much of the mobile phone age. That is something that caters to that demographic and sort of that ideology. And so working on that is, probably very opposite of what they're now working on for Pokemon Switch. And so maybe he was just in sort of a place where he's like, you know what? I think this is the future. I think this is where it's going to go. I think this is what we should spend our time on. It's interesting also that he says now he's realized it's a success, and he, obviously acknowledges the quality of Breath of the Wild, Splatoon, ARMS, things of that sort. He does say that there needs to be one more step to attract a wider audience. What do you think he's referencing?
Pokemon.
It's going to take a very special game to truly get people to play this.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because he says, one shouldn't overestimate its potential. I mean, Nintendo's over here telling you, dude, we've raised our production to 10 million, but 20 million want them. And Ishihara is still like, don't overestimate this guy.
It sounds like I do not want Ishihara at my party. Like, everyone's having a good time, and the night's going well, and Ishihara's going to walk in and say, look, guys, I don't think we should overestimate how much fun we're having here. So,
I do wonder if he's talking either about third parties or about connectivity. The fact that he makes the comparison to the age of the smartphone, and even in some of his comments that we referenced in the Pokemon Switch video, you can check that out if you want. We discussed all of his comments on that upcoming title. He does mention connectivity and how it's not much different than DS or 3DS, so maybe he feels like that will hold it back over time.
Or is it like, just how we're talking about like lifestyle apps like Netflix and YouTube and Spotify, stuff like that, like to compete, which kind of, eclipse over a smartphone in terms of like what you'll take with you when you want to go out and game.
Right. Well, even bolder than of Nintendo to believe in this idea and push it. And it would be interesting to hear like a, Jeff Keighley has done like those final hours or things of that, like a retrospective on like what was the war room discussion like before the Switch came out? Who was really pushing for this hybrid nature? Who was really pushing for it to be more of a home console, more of a portable? Who was worried? Was Reggie in there just like pulling his hair out, freaking out that this thing wasn't going to do well? Or was he confident like, guys, trust me, Nintendo Switch will change everything? But that's got to be stressful to have like one of your most esteemed partners, one of your most established franchises, one of your greatest moneymakers come to you and say, meh, don't think it's going to be a success.
Well, like you said, it's difficult when, I don't know how much he was like directly involved with Pokemon Go, but when the franchise that you work on primarily is like currently, well, not now, but back then, currently going through what can only be described as a cultural phenomenon, like level of success, like maybe just console success seems like dwarf like at that point, right? Because how many like insane number of millions of people were playing Pokemon Go for that little while that it was the best thing in the world.
Right, and Pokemon has been mainly a portable experience for majority of its of its titles, and so he would probably fall more in like, yeah, this is where things are going, and we don't know. But amazing that it is, and I think continuing that software is really important, and that's something that we've said for forever in the gaming space, that software drives sales, and if the games are there, the people will come. So as Nintendo can keep that coming, and hopefully that's motivation for Ishihara and the Pokemon Company to deliver something that will continue to push those sales and will help take that next step to attract a wider audience. I definitely think it's a game that can do that, and I hope that he is ready for that challenge. But very, very odd, very interesting, and at the same time, does this mean shortages lasting for ages? The fact that they have to manufacture, there's the part crunch issue, but it sounds like they don't really worry about that. It's more about shipping, meeting demand, getting these things spread around the globe. Shortages into 2018, is this going to be a constant thing? Will Nintendo be able to catch up? I mean, I feel like at some level they love not being able to catch up. Like it's a great PR blip to say, hey, still sold out, still can't keep up.
Yeah.
But it would be nice
Make
for
no
everybody.
mistake, though. They will catch up at some point. They have to.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And, with the good word on Skyrim and NBA and FIFA, if third parties get on board, if they get those lifestyle apps, if they find a way to incorporate online in an intelligent way, and they keep the games coming from Mario Odyssey, Yoshi, Kirby, Metroid Prime 4, and Pokemon, perhaps they will continue to impress Mr. Ishihara, and perhaps they will exceed all expectations. Let us know how you feel about this. Is it weird that Nintendo and Pokemon Company didn't think it would sell so much? I know that we were a little worried when it first came out, and now just so happy that it's doing so well. But let us know your take on this, how you feel about Ishihara's comments, how you feel about the unnamed Nintendo employees' comments, and where you think the Switch will go from here. Shortages, able to catch up. What is that next step he's talking about? Give us all your thoughts in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a fantastic day. For myself, Jake, and Gabe, Switch Force out.